Here we are, locked on live post-game. 49ers fall to the Tennessee Titans 2017. What happened? What went wrong? Key players, key plays, and yes, we will give out some game balls after this disappointing loss in Week 16. Coming up right now.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. We are live post-game rapid react podcast following that loss to the Tennessee Titans. It was a tough one. Crocky at BD Peacock at Eric _Crocker on Twitter. We will give out some game balls. I think there are some deserving players. We got to start with Jimmy Garoppolo. I know because Jimmy G he's already that type of player that has sort of he's split the fan base, right? And then he's played so well since week 8. And there's the team Jimmy versus non-team Jimmy. Croc, you and I have really tried hard to be objective about Jimmy Garoppolo. He comes out in this game. The first drive, they run down the field. The second drive, they run down the field again. Interception in the end zone. And then it was like Jimmy's world just started to fall apart. Right? Where are we at with Jimmy Garoppolo in this football game? We'll get to a ton of the other stuff that happened in this game and the Ryan Tannehill scramble at the end of the field goal that won it for Tennessee. But I know everybody in the chat already, and shout out to everybody who's already in the chat, and everybody's very fired up. We got to start with Jimmy Garoppolo, right? And he's been Jimmy W. He was not Jimmy W in this game.
No, he wasn't. And I see everybody in the chat, they're saying, Croc, you better not cape for him this time. Last time. I commended him for being able to put, behind him having a bad game and put the 49ers in potential, go ahead win against the Seattle Seahawks. But I want to make it clear, my goal is to try to remain as objective as possible when it comes to Jimmy Garoppolo, because if anybody's been listening to us throughout the entire offseason, understand if it were up to me, Jimmy Garoppolo would not be on the team. You know what I'm saying? So I try to remove my personal feelings on how I feel about Jimmy Garoppolo, and I try to be as fair to him as possible while understanding who Jimmy Garoppolo is. And I do believe this game, we saw what in most games tries to rear its ugly head, him throw some passes that can potentially give the game away. Now, against the Bengals, he threw some passes like that down the stretch and it didn't bite him. And everybody talks about, well, the 49ers won. And you talk, and it's like, but how did he play the entire game? And when you look at it from that standpoint, he played like ass. And when you look at this game, outside of that last drive and the first drive, everything in between was bad football. And really, more times than not, Jimmy Garoppolo can execute the offense in a way to where you should be able to win. But today, I think that was one of his worst performances this year.
It was a tough one. I even got in some major arguments on Twitter tonight during the game talking about the use check throw. I didn't think the use check throw was that bad. It wasn't as bad as it looked in real time because he was so wide open.
What?
But the problem is
no. That was a bad throw.
No, we can get into that. That's fine. But what I'm saying is that's not the throw to kill Jimmy on. The throw to kill Jimmy on is the interception in the end zone. The other interception where he's floated over Debo's head. That was an awful throw. Like, get in line before you want to start killing Jimmy for the use check throw. So I'm going to say one positive thing about Jimmy Garoppolo before we go on to crush him. And everyone's crushing him already in the chat. And so, Croc, it sounds like you already disagree with me. He threw a pass that every wide receiver in the NFL is going to catch, except for he just threw it to a fullback, and the fullback happened to be wide open, so it looks so much worse than it was. Jimmy threw a throw over the receiver's shoulder on a go route to the outside, and Kyle Juszczyk, like we've seen numerous times, is like backpedaling and he still gets his hand on it, right? Like I just have to not kill Jimmy for that one throw, as bad as it looked, because he was so wide open. When he lets the ball go, he doesn't know that the safety is going to get picked off and not be there anywhere near the middle of the field and near the numbers, near the sideline. The fact that after the play, Juszczyk stands up and he's like looking at the sky. He's like, I lost it in the lights. Like his angle to the ball, once the ball was in the air, he never veered to the sideline where the throw was. If it's a different receiver that sees the ball in the air, turns his head, runs underneath it, catches it on the sideline, everyone would have been hoovering Jimmy about what a bucket beautiful throw it was. So I think you've got to at least point your finger at Juszczyk on that ball as much as Jimmy. Obviously, the optics of the play and how it looked and how wide open he was, he could have thrown it anywhere. It could have been one of the classic Jimmy underthrows and it would have been a completion and fine. And in the end, it was an incomplete pass, and fine, you can blame Jimmy, but that's not the throw you kill him on. Like, I don't think it was that bad of a throw. Everyone's just making such a huge deal about it because of how open Juszczyk was. Do you disagree with me on that? Because I got a lot of pushback. I got a lot of people who agreed with me as well. And again, I'm not a Jimmy apologist, but that's not the throw to kill him on. Kill him on the interceptions for sure.
I see what you're saying. It reminded me a lot of last year against the New England Patriots. He threw a fade ball to Brandon Ayuk, and it was down the right sideline, and the ball kind of led Brandon Ayuk out of bounds. And when I looked at it, like when Jimmy Garoppolo was letting the ball go, it looked like there was going to be a defensive back there. And if the DB was there, then it would have been a perfect pass over an outside shoulder of the DB. I would say this one looked different because he waited a while to let that ball go. And by the time he threw it, the Juszczyk was wide open already. Like, he was wide open before he threw the ball. So at that point, that just needs to be a long handoff. That needs to be one of those plays. What game was it? Was it the Seahawks game when they did the tight end leak to George Kittle? And and Kittle was wide open, and there were a lot of people like, man, if he would have hit him in stride, Kittle could have had a catch and run, and who knows how long he would have went for. But my thing is, listen, he's wide open. Don't worry about making the perfect pass. Just throw it in a spot to where your guy can catch it. And I think that's the worst part about the Juszczyk play. Okay, maybe if it was a receiver, he would have caught it. But at the end of the day, he's so wide open, you just have to just get it to him. And it's a touchdown. Like, just get it to him, and it's a touchdown. He tried to make the perfect throw, and the ball got away from him a little bit.
Yeah, just put it on him. And look, if you do put it on him and you kind of underthrow him, maybe throw it in the middle of the field, the safety catches him and it's not a touchdown. But better to have a completion than to try to be too perfect and too cute with the throw. And I get that. And look, you can say it wasn't a good throw by Jimmy. And look, he missed a wide open receiver for sure. It was an incomplete pass. You can't have an incomplete pass on that. But I will say that's not the throw you kill Jimmy on. Now, we got to talk about an interception in the end zone. He's expecting his guy to win in George Kittle, and he did not. He throws first of all, come on. Like Jackrabbit Jenkins, you're a grown man. You're going to call yourself Jackrabbit, try to change your first name. You're not a teenager anymore. He's not even that fast, right, Crocky? Jackrabbit? Are we calling him Jackrabbit Jenkins?
Yeah, that's Jackrabbit. That's been his nickname. Like, as long as he's been in the
No, but he's like trying to make that his real name. It's like it says it on the roster, Jackrabbit Jenkins. Come on.
Oh, I didn't know that. But yeah, I know that's been his nickname.
Anymore.
I know that's been his nickname for.
He's not a Jackrabbit anymore. He's not even that fast. But he did make a play there. He's a gambler, and he did make a play on a big interception in that game. The worst Jimmy G throw, the one that you absolutely kill. You got to kill him. If the 49ers could have put the Titans away in the first quarter without that interception, they were just running down the field 2 times in a row. They got the ball back. They were absolutely destroying the Tennessee Titans. And then that interception let the Titans back in. The Niners should have won this game by probably multiple scores, even with a comeback attempt. And even with A.J. Brown going off on the 49ers in the second half, they shouldn't even have been in this football game. So really, to me, and I felt like Jimmy did start to unravel a little bit, right? Like, just looking at his face, he's kind of like that spacey look in his eyes. He's like, claps his hands after he misses a throw. And I thought, man, he'd lost it. He just, he was unraveling. He was coming apart. Did you sense that from Jimmy? Like, it was upstairs more so than it was like, oh, I just kind of missed a throw. I think the first throws were like, I tried to force one in to Kittle. I thought he would win, and he didn't in the end zone. Then maybe not a perfect throw to Juszczyk, could have been a big play, and he's like, oh no, now the weight is kind of coming down on him, and I felt like at that point he really did start to unravel upstairs.
Yeah. And I mean, it wasn't all on him. I give him 90% of the blame. There were some things defensively as well that didn't help, and we'll get into that. But yeah, and unraveling, I guess that's the way to put it. But to me, it's just bad quarterbacking, and that's what it looked like. You come out and that was a great first drive, and I was like, even more so than Jimmy, it's like I was looking like Kyle, like hell yeah, Kyle, you're dialing stuff up. You got guys wide open all over the field. Jimmy, just get it to these guys, and we're good. The run game was working, the pass game was working, great. And then Jimmy started doing some weird stuff, and it just started to bite them. It just started to bite them. You look at the play in the third quarter, I believe it was. And I think I saw Barrows or Mayoko, one of those guys, tweet out about Ayuk slowing down, and that threw off the whole thing with Jimmy's throw. And I thought the announcers did a really good job of kind of talking about what happened. Ayuk throttled down because if he catches it, he runs into the defensive backs. So he's throttling down so he can catch it and knife upfield right now. Jimmy throws it ahead, not even, where he's leading them into a defender. That's on Jimmy Garoppolo. My issue is, this is my issue with Jimmy. All right. And we've said it from the jump. We said it before the season. And who knows where Trey Lance is at this point. Maybe the 49ers don't have 8 wins if they have Trey Lance. But I know one question I had early on, and it was, what do you call it when you have a veteran quarterback who makes rookie mistakes? Because that's what everybody's worried about when you have a rookie in there. And I look at some of the things that Jimmy Garoppolo did today, and if it's a rookie doing it, you say, oh, it's rookie mistakes, and you can't have that, and the rookie needs to learn from that. But when you got Jimmy Garoppolo doing these things and not seeing safeties, and there was another near pick where it kind of got tipped at the line of scrimmage, so it went through a linebacker's hand. But if it wouldn't have gotten tipped, he never saw the robbing safety come from the other side. That it would have easily been a pick, regardless. And it's like, how many times are you going to do these type of things that are going to result in like potential losses? And I think he did a defense that was hanging on tight early on. He did that defense. No justice. He didn't help them at all in the second half. A defense that kept trying to do things to keep them in the game.
Jimmy Garoppolo, his line ended up being 26 of 35, 322 yards, 9.2 average, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Could have been 3, could have been 4 maybe interceptions. The miss to use check. Overall, it was a bad game. It was bad, Jimmy. 26 of 35 for 322 doesn't look bad, but that doesn't tell the whole story about how this game looked. More on Kyle Shanahan, the script that started the game. A ton more about the defense for the 49ers, what the Tennessee Titans did on offense. We've got to give out some game balls. And if you are on the live stream with us on YouTube, stick around after the podcast ends. We're going to get deep into the chat and hang out with you guys, because I know you need a lot right now. I know you need some therapy, and I hope all y'all are doing okay, and maybe have some family to lean on in these difficult times after this 49ers loss in week 16. You know what make you feel better after a loss? It makes you feel better just about any time is a delicious Built Bar. Yes, covered in 100% real chocolate this holiday season. Grab the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar. Built Bar is filled with so much holiday goodness, rich with decadent flavor, covered in chocolate. Amazingly low in calories, though. Low in sugar, low in net carbs, and low in fat somehow, yet high in protein, so you get the best of both worlds. Delicious and healthy, and so many flavors. Some of the OG flavors: raspberry, mint brownie, double chocolate, cookies and cream, peanut butter brownie, multiple coconut flavors if you're into that kind of thing. Not my bag, but some holiday flavors as well: gingerbread, eggnog. So go to built.com and find what kind of flavor you want. And if you're not sure, you can even get a mixed box of Built Bars. And if you like some marshmallowy treats around the holidays, you need to get your hands on Built Bar Puffs as well. And again, they're all low in sugar and high in protein. So go to built.com, use promo code LOCKED15. You will get 15% off your order. That is promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. Hope some of y'all won some money in your fantasy leagues, maybe some daily fantasy on the Thursday game. There was some fantastic Stat Hero contests for just Thursday night. You can find some more Stat Hero contests for Saturday night, for Sunday, for the entire weekend. You can pick 3 quarterbacks to go head-to-head against Stat Hero's 3 quarterbacks. Maybe running backs is what you want to do, and you've got a good feeling about which running backs you can use to beat Stat Hero head-to-head, because Stat Hero is not your traditional fantasy sports. It is a unique, never seen before innovation of a fantasy sports and sports betting hybrid that has Stat Hero players clocking odds that are over 4 times better. Stat Hero, first of its kind daily fantasy sports platform that lets you play versus the house. It's head-to-head fantasy matchups, winner take all. And here's the crazy part. Stat Hero shows you their lineups before you play, and you handpick your team that you want to face them one-on-one. Stat Hero head-to-head is what daily fantasy should be, one-on-one. And you can sign up free right now at stathero.com/lockedon. Use promo code LOCKEDON for a 100% deposit match as well. That's stathero.com/lockedon. Promo code LOCKEDON for the 100% match. stathero.com/lockedon. Okay, I still see people fired up about Jimmy in the chat, and appreciate everybody joining us live on YouTube right now, and a big holler for those of you who might be traveling for the holidays that are listening to this, your first listen right here on the Locked On Podcast Network in your car, maybe on to work, working through the holidays. We appreciate you on those audio podcast apps as well. Moving on from Jimmy. I mean, he was just on fire to start the game, Croc. 8 of 8 on that opening drive. And I think that might have been the best scripted opening series of a game all season long from Kyle Shanahan, right? Like, Kyle Shanahan was on fire in this game, especially to start and really throughout the game. Like, Kyle Shanahan, aside from getting a loss, he's probably somebody who's worthy of a game ball in this one. I was impressed with just about everything Kyle Shanahan dialed up in this one.
Yeah, and he was aggressive. I talked about going for it on 4th and 6 after it was Trent Williams who jumped off sides. That was a big thing. Couple of offsides penalty.
That's not a Shanahan move. The 4th and 6, I thought the punter was going to run on the field I thought they were going to kick it absolutely after it was 4th and 6.
There were a couple penalties there that kind of bit the 49ers in the ass. That was one where you have Trent Williams jump off sides, and now it's 4th and 6 instead of 4th and 1. All right. And then there was another one on the defensive side of the ball later in the game, and we'll get to the defense there. But I'm just as upset with Garoppolo as the people in the chat right now. And I think that's the hard thing to really kind of get over, how that was. You are right. Kyle Shanahan, he was aggressive. He was dialing things up. And it's just tough because when you watch Jimmy Garoppolo, you know that the room for error is really small with him. And there are some things that he just really can't overcome. And you really need him to play, I don't want to say perfect, but he can't have as many mistakes as maybe some other guys who eventually can make the plays to really kind of get you past that or stop the bleeding. And I think that was a tough thing. Kyle really dialing up things and Jimmy not stopping the bleeding. I think that was the tough part about watching that. That was tough.
That was tough. And actually, to put the other coach on the other side in it, D'Amico Ryans, I thought, put together a fantastic game plan. One of the big things I was worried about with this game for the 49ers was on a short week, even if they were a better team, and I still think the 49ers are a better team out there, even with Julio and A.J. Brown showing up. I think the 49ers were a better team than the Tennessee Titans. And I was worried about the 49ers coming out flat, short week, traveling 2,000 plus miles to Nashville to play this game on a Thursday after playing on a Sunday. And, late in the season, I thought, man, that's what it's going to be. The 49ers are going to be tired. They're going to come out flat. They're going to start slow. They're going to get behind. And then too much pressure is going to be put on Jimmy Garoppolo to throw them back in the game. But it was actually the exact opposite. They came out on fire. They came out hot, both offensively and defensively. The defensive line was murdering that Titans offensive line at the start of the game. The Niners went down the field twice, aside from the interception that ended the second drive. I mean, they went through the Titans defense like they had 7 guys on the field of the first 2 drives, and the Niners defense was hot and on fire. And then after the first quarter, somewhere in the second quarter or so, and especially in the second half, I think that's where we saw it. It wasn't that they started flat and were tired at the beginning, but at some point they got kind of gassed, right? And I felt like, especially defensively, the defensive line stopped winning. Fred Warner seemed like he was a step late to just about everything over the middle of the field. The defensive backs
Can I
got
talk
beat.
about that a little bit? What they were
Yeah,
doing?
absolutely. Yeah.
There's a lot of spot dropping going on. I'm not a fan of spot dropping. I like more match coverages, and really kind of how I teach it is kind of a hybrid of both. But with matching, you kind of carry things and you can pass things off, and that's kind of how I like to play because it squeezes the window. There were a few times there early in the game, even late in the game, where you have guys spot dropping. So spot dropping is essentially just your defenders just dropping to a spot and really have their eyes on the quarterback, and they key the quarterback on where they should go next. But there were times where they had like 3 guys in route hooking up in the middle of 2 guys who have nobody else in their zone, but they're looking with their eyes on the quarterback and not seeing the guy that's right in between those 2 when you can squeeze that route, if you run more match stuff. So I'm not saying that what DeMeco Ryans did was a bad game plan, but I would like to see a little bit more match coverage from the 49ers as opposed to just spot dropping and letting guys hook up in zones right next to you and you just act like you don't see them.
Yeah, I do know what you mean there. And especially some of the plays where the linebackers are getting so much depth, that was pretty questionable on the one where, and I think it maybe had something to do with AJ Brown. They're trying to get depth to kill that, the digs or whatever, the post, or just kind of try to have more bodies back there to stop AJ Brown. And the linebackers were so deep on a third down that I don't remember if it was Ferkser or one of the other tight ends is just wide open over the middle of the field and catches it. And that's too easy of a first down to give up in that sort of a scenario. You've got to at least have your heels on the first down marker, or at least be in a scenario where if a guy catches it, you have time to come up and tackle him. That was just a free first down.
That one, that wasn't one of the worst ones. Like, yeah, this guy, you got the tight end, he's underneath, he catches, runs, gets a first down. Like, yeah, but there were some worse ones than that with guys hooking up in zones. I saw it from AJ Brown. I saw it from some other receivers. I can't even name who they are, who they get to an open area, it's 3rd and long. They sit there and they make a catch in between 2 guys who are looking at the quarterback. So, and when I was watching it, I was talking to my uncle and I'm like, man, that's spot dropping right there. Like, I don't like spot dropping. And that's the tough part. Now, sometimes with spot dropping, you can get a beat on it while keying the quarterback, and then maybe you can see where he's throwing ahead of time if you are playing with anticipation, but it didn't look like they were playing with any type of anticipation. I prefer to read your key first and then let that guy, all right, if he's coming to my area, okay, I see him, I can move towards him and then get my eyes back to the quarterback. And if I need to peel off, then I can peel off. But I didn't see the 49ers doing that at all.
Yeah, there was one that was, and I think it was a good job by Tannehill of sort of looking off the linebacker, and there's somebody that hooked up right between the 2 linebackers, and Tannehill kind of looks him off this way and then hits right in between. And there's 2 linebackers in coverage, 1 receiver, but neither linebacker is covering the receiver, right? And so that's where that sort of spot drop thing fails on you, because you've got to. If there's 1 receiver to 2 defenders and neither defender is covering a guy, that's not ideal. Okay. We got to get to some game balls here. The worst play from Fred Warner this game was the missed tackle on Tannehill. Tannehill rumbling into field goal territory for the Titans at the end of the game. And essentially that was the end of the game. And Tannehill's a decent running quarterback. I mean, everybody knows he was a wide receiver in college at some point, but he's not at this point in his career so athletic that he should be juking K'Wan Williams and Fred Warner in the open field. I think they're probably tired. This is in the 4th quarter. This is late in the 4th quarter, but that run that Ryan Tannehill ripped off in the 4th quarter to put them in field goal position, that shouldn't happen.
That's tough. Yeah. And Tannehill is a good athlete. We are talking about a guy who played receiver in college, while I think it was Johnson who was the other quarterback there. So Tannehill went and played receiver for a couple years and then went back to quarterback that last year. This is a guy who is a good athlete, even this late in his career at the quarterback position. So, it is tough. He gets to moving around. He's a big guy. So when you see Fred Warner kind of miss that tackle, we are talking about a quarterback that's like 6'5", 235 pounds or whatever he is. And he has a little bit more mobility, I think most people think. So ideally, yeah, You need Fred Warner to make that tackle. He made a great tackle early on in the game against AJ Brown on like a shovel pass, but on this play there, he wasn't able to bring him down, and you want all pro Fred to be able to make that play.
Yeah, and that's why I think the 49ers ran out of gas. Instead of coming out flat and being tired to start the game, I think they ran out of gas during the game, and they came out hot. I think that's clearly what happened, and you don't want to make excuses. They lost the game, but short week, travel, I think that absolutely came into play, especially in the second half of this game for the 49ers. And Ryan Tannehill, 23 of his 22 yards rushing. He had -1 yard rushing before that last 23-yard run. And even with that 23-yard run, the 49ers did a good job against the run in this game. 24 carries for 90 yards. The Titans had 3.8 yards per carry, and almost a third of those yards came on that one Tannehill scramble at the end of the game. So the Niners did their job up front, stopping the run. One thing that they did not do a good job of is limiting A.J. Brown. Julio caught one pass for 7 yards. A.J. Brown didn't quite look great at first, and he looked like he was still dinged up a little bit, but he got stronger as the game went on. And there was one drive where he beat, I think, every single player in the 49ers secondary on his way to a touchdown. 11 catches, 145 yards, and a touchdown on 16 targets for A.J. Brown. They just started going to A.J. Brown over and over again in the second half of the game. Just some subtle push-offs. I know some fans out there wanted to see some offensive pass interference. Okay, hold on. Okay, you've got thoughts on this, so let's wait 1 second. I want to get into this. We've got some game balls to give out. We're going to get deep in the chat, so everyone hang out with us after the regular pod is over, and we're going to hang out with you a little while and chat it up here. More Locked On 49ers coming up. Game balls and A.J. Brown. Whew, he was a problem. If maybe you lost some money tonight, you want to make some back, or maybe you saw that line and thought short week for the 49ers, I don't think I like that line, and I'm going to put some money on the Titans. You might have won, and you can find a ton of props, odds, and lines at betonline.com that has you covered this holiday season. And we've got the playoffs coming. We've got college bowl season coming. We've got NHL. We've got boxing, UFC, college, and pro hoops, and your favorite Vegas casino games as well. Poker, blackjack, they've got it at betonline.ag. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all the sports action this season. So head over to the website, use your mobile device, use your desktop device, and sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use promo code LOCKEDON to receive that bonus. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all of your favorite sports. So don't wait. Tons of great lines and props to get to for the rest of this Christmas football weekend to take advantage of at betonline.ag, where the game starts. All right, Croc, I thought you were going to side with me on this and say that A.J. Brown is so strong and he's just so good at kind of giving you a little push and creating some space and making the catch. But you think maybe that the refs should have taken out some laundry with some of those? The one on Ambry Thomas was more subtle, but he's so strong that just a little chicken wing, that'll get a guy off. And you can see it, especially on a replay. You see that he pushes off, but I can see why a ref wouldn't throw the flag on that. And I also will say that the ref didn't throw the flag on Debo on that big play in the fourth quarter. He gave him 2 arms and he destroyed Christian Fulton and just knocked him on the ground before his big catch and run. So I kind of like them letting him play there. And I think A.J. Brown is good enough, especially watching it live and the way it, without the benefit of a replay, just the way he moves and the way he does it live and gets that push off. He's so strong that he creates more space for himself than I think a normal player would with the same move.
First, let's talk about the Ambry Thomas play because I think that was first. I've seen a lot of people in the chat saying, get Ambry Thomas out of there, bench Ambry Thomas, yada, yada, yada. Shouldn't play 49 in the draft a corner first round. Here's my response to that. One, I could be mistaken, but I think Ambry Thomas gave up 1 catch on the game. Did he give up?
Ambry Thomas played his best game easily. This was his best game.
How many catches did you see him give? I only remember that one play.
The one to Brown is the only one I remember offhand. Yes.
Okay. Now let's talk about how it happened. First of all, the time is running down. This is a very undisciplined time for the 49ers. I'm looking at the clock. There's about a 2-second difference. And I looked at my uncle and I said, they're not going to snap the ball unless the 49ers jump off sides. They got Nick Bosa to jump. They didn't take it. And the next thing you know, they got the whole defense to jump at that time. Now it's a free play, right? Terrible by the 49ers, very undisciplined. So they just throw the ball up in the air. I thought it was a clear push off on Ambry Thomas. I thought Ambry Thomas did a good job of selling it, kind of throwing his arms back, like, whoa, I just got pushed off. And it should have been clear to the referee in that space when you have two guys that are stopping for the ball. Ambry Thomas was in good position, and he just pushed off. He pushed off. Now, I will say, like you said, later in the game, Deebo Samuel, he pushed off. They didn't call anything. So at least that let me know that they're kind of calling it the same way both ways. But in the sense of defending Ambry Thomas, who I thought played well, I believe that was his only catch he gave up, and he got pushed off. He made multiple plays in the end zone on the ball where he broke up passes. I thought he played very well. It's just unfortunate he was on the wrong side of a guy getting pushed off and that resulting in a catch downfield. That was tough. But aside from that, Ambry Thomas played well. I would say Josh Norman definitely didn't have his best game. And I think he was trying to compensate for not being able to run with the guys vertically. He lacks that speed now at this point in his career. So he pressed Bills a lot. And if you're going to press Bill early in Josh Norman's career, he was great with his anticipation on route recognition from a Bill. Great at it. I mean, great. Now he's not challenging himself to that standpoint. So I saw some plays even early on where he's just off. Guys just break their route off. He's not anticipating anything. It's easy pitch and catch. We saw the one on the touchdown where good route by A.J. Brown did a really good job of kind of stemming straight up, gave him a jab outside. Norman bit on that a little bit too much, but that was just what A.J. Brown needed, who is he's a legit Pro Bowl receiver. That was all the space that he needed to be able to make the catch. And that little moving Norman just that much allowed a catch. So I think Norman, this is my thing though. I'm not going to complain about Josh Norman because he is what he is. I said this on my YouTube channel this morning. I said, listen, if the 49ers lose this game, it won't be because of the cornerbacks. And I still don't think they lost this game because of the cornerbacks. You had one drive where they got ate up, whether it was Norman, Ambry Thomas on the little push-off thing, whatever, and Jimmy Ward when he got pushed to the ground. Outside of that, there wasn't just this consistent driving and dogging guys because of the cornerbacks, and they're just roasting them and getting all these yards and all these points. Thought for a majority of the game, they did well of not being the reason why the 49ers would lose the ball game. And I still don't think that they were. This is, they say the blood's on your hands. The blood is on Jimmy Garoppolo's hands right now. This is all on Jimmy.
I think the blood is definitely on Jimmy Garoppolo's hands. The two interceptions, you can't have either one of those. There was the Ryan Tannehill scramble. That was a backbreaker. And the offsides. I'm glad you brought that play up. That was one of the biggest plays in the game. Any one of those plays don't happen, the 49ers likely win this football game. But you can't jump offsides twice, and then you give them a free play to chuck it up. And I agree with you in one aspect that I've talked about this a lot when it comes to the PI penalties. It's one thing when there's two guys fighting for the ball equally, let the best man win. But you also, I don't want to see PI called or not called in an instance where you bail the offense out. And I think not calling the PI on A.J. Brown against Ambry Thomas, that bails out an offense that's clearly just chucking the ball up. Good coverage, you're chucking the ball up, it's a one-on-one, and you let one guy interfere with the other and make the catch. You're bailing out the offense in that instance, and I don't like that. Just like I don't like it when they call defensive pass interference on a DB when the offense is just chucking it up and they just chuck it up short, and there's some very minor ticky-tack call, and you're bailing out the offense. So that aspect of it, I don't like it. They got bailed out on that play by both the 49ers and by that not being called. Props to A.J. Brown for being a beast and getting away with it. He also has a fantastic arm, which I was surprised about. I didn't know, like, that ball that he threw that he should not have thrown that almost got picked off by Jimmy Ward. That was a rocket of a throw. I didn't realize that A.J. Brown could throw the ball like that. That ball exploded out of his hand. But he's an athlete. It's just like when you see Eric Crocker attempt a field goal. It explodes off of his foot. And that's what you can expect from a world-class athlete, right, Crocker?
Yeah, and real quick one more about the offsides, and I'll get off of it. That definitely was a big play because I think, that led to a touchdown. It was like
third
third
and
and 23 or
Yeah.
whatever it was. So there wasn't even a need to just be like, oh, we have to really jump off the ball and get to the quarterback. Most likely on third in that long of a situation, they're either going to do a draw, they might do a screen, but they're not really looking to do anything that's like where I should be in a rush as a pass rusher to get to the rock and jump off sides. Like that was very disappointing by the 49ers defensive line. The defensive line that has played well down the stretch the last few games, and that was disappointing. That was a big turn of events right there in the game.
Absolutely. Okay. We got to give out some game balls here. We've got to exit the regular portion of this podcast. For those of you hanging out in the live YouTube stream chat, stick around. We're going to hang out for a bit with you. In a loss like this, Croc, 2017, there's plenty to point our fingers at for why they lost this game. In your mind, does anybody deserve a game ball in this one?
Deebo Samuel, man. Deebo Samuel. Deebo, I don't know if you remember that video. It was was it James Jones or Donald Driver? But it's like an old Madden video where the guy's like, he like pulled a hamstring. I mean, this is like actual Madden game, and he's like, limping, but he catches the ball. He's like, I put the team on my back. The team on my back, right? Like that was Deebo Samuel, man. Like he's out there, man. He's gassed. He's tired. Hey, man, Deebo, get in shape. But he's carrying the team. He put the team on his back. And he tried everything offensively. So I think, when we look at a guy who he's running the ball, he's catching the ball, he had 9 catches for 159 yards. He had another 5 rushes for 32 yards. I mean, come on, man. We're talking about a guy who almost had 200 yards by himself. So he definitely tried to put his team on the back. Definitely like game ball. If anybody deserves one on the offensive side of the ball, it's him.
Deebo Samuel, 5 carries for 32 yards to go along with his 9 catches for 159 yards. He almost willed his way into the end zone on that long catch and run at the end of the game. The Niners did score on that play, but man, there's nothing more you can really say. But I almost feel like we should leave it at Deebo as the only game ball in this game because of how awesome he is. Like he deserves his own category of game ballness. And with how many game balls he's gotten this year, he's like in the game ball Hall of Fame at this point, because I think he's gotten a game ball. He didn't get one in the game he didn't play. And I think maybe one other game or maybe 2 other games that he has played in, he hasn't gotten a game ball. Almost every single week, Deebo gets a game ball. We have to name the game ball after Deebo Samuel, the Deebo Samuel honorary game ball.
It's the Deebo Samuel award, but we do have to give a shout out to 3 guys on defense. All right, so I'll make it quick. I know we got to get out of here. One, I think Jimmy Ward and Jaquiski Tartt, they were flying all over the play. They made plays on the ball. They were terrific.
Would you say that they should have come up with difficult interceptions in that game that could have turned the tide and maybe they win the game if either one catches those balls?
I definitely think that Ward had a couple opportunities to catch the ball. There was one where he was like push off on AJ Brown on the sideline, where AJ, but it's like the way he attacked the ball, it was to break up the ball. But I thought that was an opportunity, playmaker, you make that catch right there. It was an opportunity. And then the diving one that AJ Brown threw, and he dove for the ball, a little bit more difficult for sure. I thought that was an opportunity for him to make a play on the ball. But aside from that, Jimmy Ward, Tartt, they're flying all over the play. And then Kadarius Street had a couple of sacks. I thought he did a really good job because DJ Jones went out the game with an injury. Street came in, had to play a lot of that game. I thought he did a terrific job as well, not just in the passing game, but those guys, they were all over it in the run game as well. So Street, Tartt, Ward, definitely got to get game balls to those guys.
I'm looking at the sacks. Abelcom had 1.5 sacks. He had a really nice effort sack on one of them. Kentavious Street, you're right, had the sack and a couple of plays in the backfield, and he wasn't even starting the game, but he played really well, and I think maybe fresh legs was a big part of that. So, yeah, I agree with all those. And, look, I'm going to throw Kyle Shanahan in there. We talked about it earlier. With what Shanahan was dealing out in this game, like the calls he was making, everything was to perfection, and it took mistakes on the rest of the team's part for them to lose the game on the field. And that definitely includes Jimmy Garoppolo. So I thought the game plan was there, and I thought Kyle Shanahan was tuned in, and he slept at the facility. He wanted this game. He put in the effort, he put in the time, and it definitely, you can't put this loss on Kyle Shanahan.
I agree.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for making us your first listen every day right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. For your second listen, go check out Croc on Locked On NFL Draft. Check me out on the Peacock and Williamson NFL show daily right here on the network, breaking down the entire league. It's going to be draft season very soon, sooner for some teams than others. Hopefully not the 49ers in this case, but now they have a ton of work to do and maybe need some help unless they win the next 2 games here. Now, the 49ers sitting at 8-7 on the season, but do still have a hold right now on that 6 seed in the NFC. Stick around in the live stream chat. And for those of you in your car on your way to Christmas, we appreciate you. And we'll be back Monday right here, Locked On 49ers. All right. Thanks, everybody who's here in the chat. We're going to hang out for a little bit. You can let us have whatever you have in the chat. Shout out to Craig. He says, sorry to join late. Been listening every day for years. Thanks for the Dwight Clark jersey. Yeah, he was a winner of one of our contests a while back. Croc, if we hit those 3 million listens, 3 million, Crocky. It's going to be cutting it close to get there before the new year. If we hit 3 million, I think it's time to give away another jersey. Thanks for reminding me about that, Craig, and maybe a couple other things I have to give away. Maybe some Locked On 49ers branded golf balls. If you want a sleeve of golf balls, that would be good. So yeah, we'll do a little giveaway for sure if we get to that 3 million mark. And by the way, everyone, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We're up to about 2,000 subscribers here on the podcast now. The thing is growing quick on YouTube, and I'm actually having a lot of fun doing this YouTube thing, and appreciate Crocky now being part of the show. It's been a lot of fun doing the video stuff with you, Crocky. Let's see. Let's get into the chat a little bit here. Oh, I like this a lot. Been listening the last 2 years, been a Niners fan since 1985. Keisha, shout out to Keisha. A long timer. That's before Croc was a 49ers. That's before I was a 49ers fan. I probably jumped on around 1988, 89-ish. Like 89 was my prime when I really started to pick some teams. And in my family, it was all San Francisco. So it was Giants and 49ers. They've been close to my heart for a very long time, starting right about then.
Gosh, that was a tough loss. I'm not gonna lie. That was a tough loss. Now, guys, we loosen up a little bit after we stopped the recording. Disclaimer: I try to be as objective as possible in a professional setting, which is, the podcast. But now, I think the post-game show. I think the post-show, the post-game post-show. I think this is an opportunity for me to kind of like loosen up a little bit.
Crocky. Do you have a beverage with you?
I don't. I'm at my grandparents' house. So no beverage.
They don't have like an old bottle of brandy or something hidden away?
Nah, I wish they might have something around here, man. Some wine. I did have a glass of wine actually.
Okay, there you go.
That's pretty cool when you're at the age you drink wine with your grandparents. That's what's up.
Yeah,
but awesome. That was tough. That was definitely a tough loss. That was very, very disappointing. Peacock was talking to me as he was getting set up, and it's just like I don't even want to hear it. Like I'm just upset as y'all are about a loss like that because it should never happen. A situation like, and it's like, Jimmy, I try to remain as objective as possible with you. I understand who Garoppolo is and what he is and stuff like that, but when he has a game like that, and I see Jimmy for what he is a guy that can do some weird stuff like that. Like he could do those like that weird game. Like I'm not surprised by it. It just sucks that he does it. And then it's really weird that people try to justify when he has all these weird moments. Again, you can throw a couple interceptions, whatever, but you better be good enough to overcome it in a game where your defense is doing everything in their power to really. I saw a stat or something. I said that the 49ers, they held the Tennessee to 50 yards in the first half, and you have 10 points because of missed opportunities by you. Like, those are the tough things. And I see some people talking about Trey Lance. No, they're all in on Jimmy Garoppolo right now.
Yeah,
they're all in on Jimmy. They are all in on Garoppolo. The Trey Lance thing is not going to happen, but it is disappointing to see the 49ers lose games like that because, again, I talked about it. When you start Jimmy Garoppolo this year, the in your head, you don't. Let me look into the camera. when you start Jimmy Garoppolo this year, in your head, the results that you're looking for are not a team that is currently 8-7. That was never the goal when you start Jimmy Garoppolo. So for him to do things that result in a loss in the fashion that it just did, like that's very disappointing. But it's not, because that's who Jimmy is. And there are a lot of people trying to fool themselves to say that that's not who he is. I don't care what PFF says, saying that he's the number one quarterback over that. Yes, he look at what Kyle Shanahan dials up for him. That was why you gave Kyle Shanahan a game ball. Like there's a lot of things that it's not high difficulty things that he's asked to do, and even then he kills the game the way that he did. That was really tough to watch. And then does the last drive, and that's what people are gonna, well, look at the last drive. No, not on him. He gave them a chance to win. Man, F all that, man. Same thing in the Bengals game. I talked about that game. I thought that he was a dropped interception from Bates away from being benched for Trey Lance. Clearly, he kicked the field goal. Okay, overtime. They win, whatever. They win that game, whatever. But he does these things, man, and it's just tough. It's tough to watch that, because that's not the level of play I expect for somebody who's an 8-year pro. When you do have the rookie, okay, he's gonna have his ups and downs, but it's tough, man. That was tough. That was tough. That was one of the toughest losses. That was tough. The Seahawks one was tough, but I feel like this was even worse than that, because it was just complete domination.
It was worse because, like Quest for Six says here, it could have and maybe should have been 24-0 at the half. They were dominating, and the only way you lose that game is by giving it away and throwing it away. And that's what happened. That's what the 49ers did. And I know you crushed PFF there. I don't think PFF was wrong. They're just telling you what happened. Jimmy was good one week, great another week, good another week, and then awful this week. But we know that small sample of PFF grades, because you notice that everyone talks about the PFF grades. They were like, well, 1 through 7. Weeks 1 through 7, Jimmy was 28th best quarterback in the league. Weeks 8 through 15, Jimmy was first graded quarterback in the league. Well, it's like, well, yeah. So obviously we know watching Jimmy that Jimmy's going to be Jimmy, and he's somewhere in between that. And tonight he was worse than somewhere in between. Tonight he was back to 28 out of 32, Jimmy.
But what was those games? The Seahawks game, the Bengals game. When were those? Were those between the week? Because those weren't good games. I thought they were terrible.
They weren't terrible. I think you're going a little too far with being terrible. But he didn't get the Bengals. He threw the ball to the Bengals. They didn't capitalize on it.
No, but I'm not talking about just that last drive. I'm talking about in general, right? We're talking about in the Bengals game, a team that muffed 2 punts to put you in scoring position, and outside of that, you maybe had a drive, and then you stall out the entire second half. Outside of, I think, a field goal, like if they don't gift you multiple scoring drives right there, like in scoring position with the muff punts, the 49, that's a completely, totally different game with how the quarterback was playing for the entire game outside of the last 2 minutes of the game.
Let me ask it to you this way. Do you think when you see things like the PFF grades, or you see EPA, or you see these other stats that usually get attached to a quarterback, do you think what we're actually seeing is grades of Kyle Shanahan as much or more so than Jimmy Garoppolo? Are we seeing, okay, Kyle, if Jimmy doesn't throw interceptions and just runs Kyle's offense somewhat efficiently and isn't awful, then you're going to be a highly graded quarterback, and PFF is going to like what you're doing, because you're getting yards, you're scoring points, and you're finding open players, and those players are making plays after you get them the ball and you facilitate an offense. Do you think when you see Jimmy Garoppolo as the highest graded PFF quarterback over the course of 6 weeks, are you really seeing Kyle Shanahan being the highest graded offensive coordinator over the course of 6 weeks?
I think no. Yes and no. You hear guys like Steve Young talk about it. And what does Steve Young say? I would have loved to play in this offense. The answers are built in for you, And so from that standpoint, yes, you can give Kyle some credit, because he does do a really good job of calling the play to Jimmy's strengths. But he calls plays to Jimmy's strengths. And I do think within Jimmy's strengths, there is some level of like talented football there with some of the throws that he is able to make. The issue is if you force him outside of that, that's when things start to get a little weird for Jimmy Garoppolo. And even then, within how you have to call kind of plays for him, there is the chance that he just might overthrow a shot over the middle. There is a chance that he might not see a defender robbing. And within that, it makes it a little bit more difficult. But when those things don't happen, I think Jimmy, he's more talented than Nick Mullins, right? Like you could put Nick Mullins in that same thing, and sometimes he can look good, but he's still not going to look as good as Jimmy Garoppolo. I just think ultimately, they both have a hand in it, but I will probably give a little bit more to Kyle for being able to put a guy with limitations in position to be successful.
We know that Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers, for whatever reason, they're not going to go to Trey Lance now. If they didn't go to Trey Lance a long time ago, they're not going to go to Trey Lance right now. It's Jimmy's show the rest of the way. Let me ask you this, though. Through 16 weeks, 15 games, the Niners are 8-7 right now. Let's say they took our advice and they used our plan when they traded up for number 3. That's his job. Rookie quarterback plays from week 1. Jimmy Garoppolo gets traded in the offseason. There's not even a conversation. There's not even competition because Jimmy's on another roster. Trey Lance starts every game this season for the 49ers. Their record currently is 8-7. What would their record be with Trey Lance?
I don't know. It's tough, right? Because the only Trey Lance that we know is the guy with limiting starting snaps. The only Trey Lance we know is a guy who did not get any snaps with the ones during training camp, during preseason. He played behind second team offensive line. When he came in against the Seahawks, he had no snaps really leading up to that game. When he played against the Cardinals, that's the first time he had starting snaps. And he played against one of, at the time, the best team in the NFL that was firing all cylinders defensively and had J.J. Watt and things like that. And I thought he played well, but obviously it resulted in a loss. It's hard to say, hey, what would Trey Lance look like? Because what we're asking is if he would have had all the reps in the offseason, not just, okay, at some point, okay, you get some starting reps. If he gets reps from day one with Kyle Shanahan, what does that look like? And I don't know if the 49ers would be 8-7 right now, but I would be comfortable with saying they'd be, 6 and what they play. They got third. What they got 15 games right now?
Yeah, 6-9.
All right, so yeah, somewhere around there, 6-9. I could see that. Maybe 7-8, maybe, but 6-9. I think there are some games that the 49ers are just going to win. But also, you never know because you don't know the trajectory of how he could play. Look at the Patriots, and I don't want to say that Trey Lance is Mac Jones, but Mac Jones came in. They were 2-4, weren't they? They were 2-4. It wasn't looking good. He had 3 interception game. He's throwing pick sixes. He's doing all kind of weird stuff. And let's play complementary football. He stopped turning the ball over as much. They're running the ball extremely well. The defense is playing well, and it resulted in wins. So and we saw last game, it got a little tough for Mac Jones. He had to play a game where he had to win the game. Maybe quite wasn't ready to do that, and it resulted in the loss. I think when you look at Trey Lance, I do think, in theory, he would improve somewhat, and that's what it sounds like some of the reports are coming out of 49ers camp right now, that he is starting to slice and dice the defense and do some things well.
Yeah, Fred Warner made some comments like that this week. If you put it this way, you said 6-9. The Niners will still be better than the Seahawks with Trey Lance in there all year. I'm confident of that. And who knows, maybe he would have developed to a point where the Niners are even more of a problem and they're even better team right now than they are with Jimmy Garoppolo. If they would have built all that up, all that equity with Trey Lance developing and getting game reps, maybe they'd be better right now. We're not seeing a ton of that with some of the rookie quarterbacks. Mac Jones has absolutely played really well early in his career. The same cannot be said for the other first-round quarterbacks. Where would Trey Lance be on that scale? From the small sample we've seen, I'm pretty confident he would have played better than Kyle or Zach Wilson has right now. Zach Wilson has been flat out off.
Better situation.
A lot of it because better situation, better team around him, better everything.
Yeah, and I see my guy in the chat right now. and he's talking about Trey Lance, and he made some good points here. Trey converted on 4 out of 5 third down and longs against the Cardinals. Now, again, that's not for the entire game, all the third downs, but there were several times where third and long, Trey Lance converted. He did some things that I thought were really good. I thought he did a lot of things in the Cardinal game. That's like, you know what? We can build off of a lot of this. There's a lot of things we can build off of. Obviously, you don't want to see him run as much. And I think the 49ers and Kyle Shanahan felt the same way. That's why they said going into the Colts game, they were expecting him to be the guy until they found out he had a knee sprain. They prepared with Jimmy Garoppolo. And then from there, it started to kind of get a little weird because Jimmy started winning some games and it was hard to kind of bench Jimmy Garoppolo at that time. So, I understand why they don't go with Trey Lance, but I do think there was some time to build on. But again, there's two different things here. There's the Trey Lance right now with the time that he's had to prepare or whatever. And then there's the Trey Lance where if there were no Jimmy Garoppolo around and he's had all the first team snaps and all the chance to really develop, which that's what, when I was with the New York Jets, that's what they did with Geno Smith, where they put Mark Sanchez on IR and gave Geno Smith all those reps. Now, ultimately, Geno Smith wasn't as talented, but still, just the thought process behind it. And ultimately, that's what the Patriots did with Mac Jones. Okay, you got Cam Newton. For everything everybody say about Cam Newton, at the game that he got let go after this, he was like 9 of 10 passing. He sliced up the Eagles defense. He was running, and he looked great. And then they cut him like a few days later. So, I don't know. You know, it's tough. It's tough, but I don't know. I mean, we're talking about it, and I know we're excited to see Trey Lance when we do see him. And at some point, that clock has to start, but it doesn't look like it's going to be this year.
Aaron says it's going to be frustrating when some of the same people calling for Trey this year will be trashing him for making rookie mistakes next year. What do you think? Is that going to be you, Croc?
Well, no, because the way I look at things, especially when it comes to rookies or even guys in their second years, I'm just looking for the upside, like what he can be. You know what I'm saying? Now, after so many years, you find out who that guy is, right? Jimmy Garoppolo, we know who Jimmy is. And okay, he can win you games. But we know there's just a kind of a cap on kind of what, like a way that he has to play to be able to win. Sometimes that gets a little weird. With Trey Lance, there's always going to be that, okay, where does he progress? Okay, let me see him progress. And I gave Jimmy Garoppolo that same opportunity. 5 games he started. He won those 5 games that first year. Damn, can't wait to see when he knows the offense. Oh, damn, he got injured. Okay, like, you know, next day, okay, dang, first season started off weird. First half 2019, damn, 49ers go to a Super Bowl. He's only going to be better next year. And then it's like Jimmy is just who Jimmy is.
Yep.
With Trey Lance, I'm going to give him those same opportunities of, all right, where's he at? Okay, where do we need to see the growth and continue from there? I'll know, and heading into year 3, you should know a little bit more of where he's at and what he is.
And what worries me about Jimmy is it wasn't like, oh, he was getting hit and it's an interception, or there was other circumstances for reasons that he's turning the ball over. He just doesn't see it sometimes and turns the ball over, just completely misses a throw, turns the ball over, and that's where it's hard to excuse some of the Jimmy Garoppolo stuff. And then on top of it, with someone like Trey Lance, because Jimmy doesn't have the ability with his legs or with his arm to make the big plays to make up for it. So if he's not hyper efficient and he's turning the ball over, he doesn't make the big plays to make up for making mistakes. So he has to be closer to perfect than another quarterback like Trey Lance could be. So Trey Lance, potentially, even if he's not perfect and making some rookie mistakes right away and not, amazing right out of the gate, and you probably shouldn't expect that in his first reps as a full-time starting quarterback we're going to be amazing and he's going to be a superstar quarterback right away, and maybe he'll become that soon. But he has the ability with the arm, with the legs, to make bigger plays to make up for some rookie mistakes, whereas a player like Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't.
Right. And we'll see that. The funny thing is, I remember a play against the Seahawks where Trey Lance found Deebo Samuel on the right sideline, wide open, right? It was busted coverage. Deebo Samuel scored. And we dismiss plays like that, right? Well, it's a blown coverage, so anybody should be able to convert on that. And and it's like, well, they should, but Jimmy Garoppolo today didn't. You know what I'm saying? So
there was essentially a blown coverage in this game, and
yeah,
they didn't complete the pass. I put a little bit more on that in juice than some people might, but when you put it all together, bad game from Jimmy. Got to have those. What do you think? Can we win the next 2 games, and do we end up with the 6th or 7th seed. Yeah, if the 49ers still win out and win the last 2 games of the year, week 17 and 18, against the Texans and the Rams, they will have the 6th seed for sure. They might have the 6th seed just winning against the Texans next week. And if you can't beat the Texans, they probably don't make the playoffs. And if you can't beat the Texans, you don't deserve to make the playoffs. But they need some help. They need some tiebreakers. They have the tiebreaker over the Vikings. They have the tiebreaker over the Eagles. So the Saints are really the team you have to worry about. But even if that would mean 2 teams would have to knock the 49ers out, and one of those other 2 teams, even if the Saints is one of them, would have to be the Vikings or the Eagles, which would mean they would have to be more than tied with the 49ers. They would have to go over the top of the 49ers and be a full game ahead. So I still don't see any way, unless the 49ers lose to the Texans, that they don't sneak into the playoffs. But they will need a little bit more help if they only win 1 game and it's against the Texans. And I think it's the Seahawks. The Texans, they beat the Texans, lose to the Rams. They'll be 9-8 on the season. That should be enough to get them in. They might need a tiebreaker in that case, but I think they'll be in. Because the other teams, I'm not confident they're going to win. But if 2 of those teams win out and they end up 10 wins, then the Niners won't be in. So it's not for sure with only 1 more win that the Niners will be in, but I think they will be.
I think our guy Craig Snyder, where's his message at? But he said something, and he says, here it goes. It depends what Jimmy shows up. And I think that's what it is. And you know the tough thing, man, I've talked about it a little bit. You look at the way this season has gone for Jimmy Garoppolo, and there's another coach who he had bigger balls than Kyle Shanahan, and maybe it's because he had a little bit more skin in the game. He has a little bit more kind of credibility, I guess you could say.
Does it rhyme with Belichick?
Nope, not him. But he showed big balls early. But I'm saying in this similar situation, this very same situation, a coach did something that Kyle Shanahan right now has the opportunity to do, but this coach just showed a little bit bigger balls. I'll give you 5 seconds to think about what team that might be. See if anybody in the chat can tell us who that team might be.
In the exact same situation, we're talking about a rookie quarterback?
Rookie quarterback.
Ravens was
yes.
Talking about John Harbaugh? Okay, John Harbaugh. Did he go? So he went full time.
He wrote it. He wrote it out with. He was writing it out. I see everybody now. Ravens. John Harbaugh. He had a quarterback that won the Super Bowl. Right? We're talking about Joe Flacco, and they drafted Lamar Jackson. And Lamar, I thought they did a better job of incorporating him into the offense to some extent. Now, Kyle didn't want to go in that direction, but when it came down to it, the team was not terrible at the time, but they benched Joe Flacco for Lamar Jackson, a guy who wasn't quite, quote unquote, ready, and he rolled it out, and they went to the playoffs. Now they lost, and he looked terrible in the playoffs, Lamar Jackson, but I do think that got things going for them. And, ultimately Lamar Jackson was the MVP the next year. And, we've seen everything that he's done so far, but I thought just that move though, it would be nice to see, and Kyle won't do it, but right now he has 10 days to prepare for Houston. And you know what I'm saying? This is the time you got a chance to play your rookie. He won't do it. I want to make it clear, y'all. He won't do it. But
he might not let Jimmy throw a lot either, though. Like they're going to run the ball 55 times next week against the Texans.
When you look at Craig Snyder and what Craig Snyder said, well, it depends on what Jimmy shows up. And it's like, if we have to say things like that, it depends on what Jimmy shows up and kind of how he's been in some of these games. It's like, you got a chance to go with the rookie and build off of that and get him in the game against Houston, not the Arizona Cardinals with Kyler Murray and all these guys on the other side. We're talking about a team, Houston, that you really should beat. And I think there's a game plan to where you can really kind of beat them almost effortlessly and then go into the Rams game. And I think when you look at the Rams and kind of where they are, the Rams game, they might not play Stafford and those guys if they have the 5th seed locked up. I don't know, man. I don't know. Maybe the Harbaugh, I see Harbaugh, Alex Smith, Colin Kaepernick. Maybe the Harbaugh just got bigger balls than
more like hard balls. Am I right?
Yeah, there you go. I like that. The hard balls.
Yeah. The hard balls. It's a family gene. All right, we got to get out of here. I think pretty soon here, Crocky. Yeah, that's kind of the feel I get because Kyle goes through those phases where he just doesn't trust Jimmy, and you can tell. But if you don't trust Jimmy and you're going to go straight run game and let him throw 6 or 8 times, even though that's an opponent you should still beat that way, then why aren't you going to the rookie? And we'll see how things turn out. Maybe it'll turn. There's other teams in the NFC. The Niners will be solidified and say the 6th seed after a win next week. And maybe we'll get to see Trey Lance. But the only way we get to see Trey Lance is if there's nothing to play for. No possibility of a 7 seed, no possibility of a 5 seed, no possibility of not making the playoffs. It would literally have to mean nothing for Trey Lance to get to play. And then what if Trey Lance plays amazing and just torches the Rams? You know, and who else doesn't play, by the way, in that game? You can't play Debo in that case. You can't play Kittle in that case. You probably sit Trent Williams. So you're practically running out the scout team anyway. But what if he looks great? That kind of looks bad for Kyle if Trey Lance comes out and looks awesome in week 18, right?
Well,
doesn't that make life difficult? And especially if you go lose the next week in the playoffs?
You look at the game against not against, but it was Patrick Mahomes. You know, he started that very last game of his rookie year. I don't think they had anything to really play for. He started against the Broncos, I believe it was. And you watch that game, and I would say Mahomes, if you guys go back and watch it, they have the whole game. Mahomes, he missed throws and stuff, but you were able to see the talent, and you could see like, okay, I think this is going to go somewhere. And it would be nice to see Trey Lance, even if it's not perfect, but just, okay, he's had this year and he's heading in the right direction. And, you know, but yeah, if he goes and he balls out, and it's like, that's why I would play him against Texas. I play him against the Texans, man. Like, you're 8-7 with Jimmy Garoppolo, man. I play him against the Texans.
Croc, the listeners are trying
10 days to prepare. You got 10 days to prepare.
Oh, yeah, dude. Like I said, the 49ers can't screw around next week. If they lose to the Texans, then the Niners are bad. And even if they make the playoffs, the league shouldn't allow them to be in the playoffs. If you can't beat the Texans next week, 10 days rest, and mad about this loss. They better be mad about this loss. You don't deserve to be in the playoffs. The listeners are trying to drive a wedge between us, Croc. Is Croc sick of Peacock calling him Crocky? No, he couldn't be. This is like Janoris Jenkins calling himself Jackrabbit. Right?
You're right. Yeah.
Hey, you tell me. You let me know right now, Crocky. If you don't want me to call you Crocky, I will call you Eric.
Nah, I would be upset with you calling me Eric.
Yeah. That might be the first time I ever called you Eric, except for maybe the first time I ever talked to you.
You're right. Even then, you probably still call me Croc.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Thanks, guys. I listen to Locked On 49ers every day at work, and to Peacock and Williamson. You've helped me with my fantasy, too. I love the Niners so much. Talent. Oh, believe. I love that. Thank you, Keisha. And thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us. Croc, do you have any last thoughts? Do you want to go in on Jimmy one more time? Do you still have some more pin-up frustration in you?
I'm done.
Anybody else you want to go in on?
Nah, man, I got it all off my chest, man. Now tomorrow I'll be probably more level-headed, and we can talk about how let's go Jimmy G. We'll get back to that tomorrow, but I had to get this out of my system, just the frustration with it. And 8-7, not the expectations with Jimmy Garoppolo and losing games like that. Not the expectations. Wasn't the expectations.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that Crocky gives Jimmy Garoppolo a game ball 10 days from now. In 10 days.
Oh no, man.
All right, we got to go. Thanks, everybody, for joining us on the chat, on the live stream. So many of you in here. We appreciate all of you. Make sure you hit that subscribe button right now. You can hit the bell as well, so you are notified when we do go live or when we post a podcast. Thanks for making us your first listen every day right here. Locked On 49ers.